Sky Wars and Satan. Luke's Jesus claims that he saw someone fall from the sky. Luke chapter 10, verses 18 to 19. I saw Satan fall like lightning from sky vault. Look, I have given you authority to tread upon serpents and scorpions, and over all the power of the enemy, and nothing shall hurt you. I give you authority to tread over serpents and scorpions. There's a constellation in sky vault that is interpreted in one tradition as a scorpion and another tradition as a snake or dragon. Hippolytus, in his refutation of all heresies, cites Aratus to note that there is in the sky vault, quote, an enormous and prodigious monster, the serpent, and that this is what the devil says in the book of Job to the deity when Satan uses these words, I have traversed earth under sky vault and have gone around it, in Job chapter 1, verse 7. Well, the serpent he's referring to there is the great Seraphim constellation, the great dragon Draco, that orbits the North Star, closest to it. Hippolytus says that the dragon serpent is located near the North Pole, from which vantage point he can see everything. John the Revealer appears to reflect this perspective when he writes, Revelation chapter 12, verses 7 to 9, Now war arose in the sky vault, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon. They were defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in the sky vault. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. Was Hippolytus right in his understanding that the dragon in the book of Revelation chapter 12 was the constellation we call Draco? Certainly that's a constellation associated with the dragon. But there are other dragon constellations. This one seems to be an honored Seraph. The word Zaraph, by the way, in Hebrew means combustible one. Fiery dragons in the sky. It's highly probable that Jesus and John both recount a vision each of them had in an alternate state of consciousness. Reading the sky according to the traditional sky lore, as it has been interpreted by the Israelite tradition, both Jesus and John of Patmos see an event, a sky war, that took place before humans were created. Jesus may also be referring to constellations when he mentions serpents and scorpions. I give you authority over serpents and scorpions, right after mentioning that he saw Satan fall from sky vault. How interesting. According to Israelite tradition, Michael defeated the serpent, the starry dragon, and exiled it from the sky to earth, where it later met the first human beings. In another Israelite tradition, much earlier than those behind Revelation and the Gospels, Job chapter 1 reflects the period when Satan, or actually more accurately, the Satan, was still in God's good favor in the sky. But the ancient Yahwist tradition, Genesis chapter 3, from about 950 BCE, reports a snake or serpent to be already on the earth before the creation of the first human beings. So to Jesus and John in the first century, that sky war must have taken place earlier. Because by the time of Jesus and John, the mischievous talking snake in the Yahwist myth had become one with Satan in Job and the devil through theological evolution. The constellation Scorpio and Libra are the best candidate to look for when one wants to see the Satan in the book of Revelation. The Sky War or Star Wars story appears to have been shaped by another ancient Sky War story found throughout the Mediterranean world about darkness, Scorpio, causing the sun and light, Orion, to fleeing in the winter months. Orion, the sun, shamed Artemis, the moon. So Scorpio, darkness, came to the rescue and wounded and then slew Orion. That doesn't sound like what you get in the book of Revelation. But you see, all Mediterranean peoples shared a common sky lore. Different Mediterranean peoples, like the Israelites, had their own take on the sky lore. It may be uncomfortable for many Catholics who are fond of praying to St. Michael to realize that Michael the Archangel was the Israelite understanding of the constellation Orion. Thus the saying, at the rising of Scorpio, darkness in the east, Orion, light, flees at the western sky. Traces of this Mediterranean sky lore appear in Isaiah. The Greek version of Isaiah 13 verse 10 has it this way: "The stars of the sky and Orion and the whole array of the sky will not give light." And Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1, the Hebrew version: "In that day the Lord with his hard and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan, the fleeing serpent, Leviathan, the twisting serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea." Isaiah chapter 27 verse 1. The Septuagint version, the Greek version, talks about the crooked or dishonest dragon serpent. Notice that the ancients were not concerned about consistency or ashamed of inconsistency. Sky knowledge was cumulative. Each culture added and adapted data and applied its insights to matters or events in need of understanding and interpretation. Above all, the challenge was to discover and understand God's will for the here and now. The sky vault above offered a ready reference for that task. And I think you'll see that by looking at these slides carefully, the Bible was not written by fundamentalists for fundamentalists. Conclusion. When the Assyrians gained world dominance in the 8th and 7th centuries BC and conquered Israel, the northern kingdom, their non-Israelite worship of the stars became attractive, tempting, and popular. The prophet Amos warns that exile will be God's punishment for the house of Israel when it adopts Chiron, probably Saturn, as your star god. Amos chapter 5 verse 26. The prophet says, "Yet you will carry away Sukkoth, your king, and Chiron, your star image, your gods that you have made for yourselves." During the reign of Hoshea, Israel forsook all the commandments of the Lord and worshipped all the host of Skyvault, meaning all the stars, whether singular or constellated. 2 Kings chapter 17 verse 6. In Hoshea's 9th year, the king of Assyria took Samaria, deported the Israelites to Assyria, and settled them in Halah and at the Habor, a river of Gozan, and in the cities of the Medes. Subsequently, King Josiah attempted to put an end to this idolatry. 2 Kings 23 verse 5. He deposed the idolatrous priests, those also who burned incense to Baal, to the sun and the moon and the constellations, and all the host of the sky vault. King Josiah's reforms were in vain. Modern readers of the Bible have long misunderstood these appropriate condemnations. You should not value the creature over the creator. But they've misunderstood these appropriate condemnations to mean that Israelites should have nothing at all to do with the sky and its animate beings, stars, planets, constellations. That's throwing the baby out with the bathwater. A careful and critical reading of the Bible shows that people like Ezekiel, John the Revealer, and Jesus were recognized by their peers as astral prophets. This kind of prophet knows the sky vault very well and interacts with star-related celestial personages other than human persons to learn the will of God. The written narratives in the Bible record the circumstances in which they learned this, in trances or other alternate states of consciousness. The interactions themselves, the content of the visions, what is seen and or heard, and the consequences, the impact or the meanings of the phenomena in the sky. One could learn much about God from reading the sky. Ironically, this enlightening reading can only be done in the dark.